Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the 173rd episode of Taps of Patience. I'm AJ with Audacity Micro and Subtract Manufacturing, here with Harrison at Precision Ingenuity. Harrison, we have our song back.
I feel whole again.
I know, right? Zencastr is really different in the menus now, but the podcasting screen's back to how it was. So we have our button back. Jacob's still going to remove the music we put in and put in his own music, but at least it's his own free will this time.
Yeah. And at least we still have something.
Yes.
Because I feel naked without it.
Yeah, no, that was bad. So what have you been up to?
Everything, it feels like.
A second ago, you were saying you were wanting to get to bed, and it's like 5:50 your time.
Mm-hmm.
So that implies busyness.
Yeah, so the last 2 weekends, I've been helping my aunt move lots of heavy things. And then school is starting up, and so my wife is getting back to work, and so I've been helping her with stuff there. And then all of my machines are busy, and I had a customer that had some rush orders. So I actually was running a machine at a different shop this week, and I got to finish it up on tomorrow. And so, because I didn't have the capacity to do it on any of my machines.
So you just called up a friend and was like, hey, can I borrow your mill?
Basically, yeah.
Nice.
And
what kind of mill is it?
A Mazak VTC 300.
Is that your first time using a Mazak control?
No, I've programmed parts for them in the past, but
okay.
Let me make sure I got this right. VTC 300C.
That was too slow.
Mazak VTC 300C.
Is it just like a VF2 type competitor? Or?
No. These are very big, expensive.
Well, okay.
machines.
In terms of size and form factor,
it's got like a 64 inches of X and like 30 inches of Y.
So it's a big one.
Yeah, and it's a traveling head machine. So the table's stationary. So for the travels, it's actually a pretty small machine. And because the table stays stationary and the head moves, it's like it's like my UMC. Like the head moves back and forth, in and out, up and down.
Or like Saunders Akuma.
Yeah.
Or Akuma's at this point, maybe.
Although the Akuma's, the table still moves in the Y-axis.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah, the Akuma's, it's X and Z, and the table moves in Y. This one, the table's 100% stationary, and the head moves.
So presumably for big, heavy things.
Yeah. So like it's got 64 inches of travel, and they've done parts like out of a 12-foot stick on it, and then they can open the side windows and stick it in. And the nice thing about that is that the nice thing about the table not moving is you can stick big things through and they don't move, like they would on the
yeah. That makes sense.
So like you can support them on both ends or whatever end's hanging out, and not worry about your support getting knocked around.
Yeah. Or whacking into your sheet metal because you misjudged by half an inch. Or...
Yeah, stuff like that. So like for that kind of stuff, it's really nice. Using it, and this is just Mazaks in general, I think I would have a hard time using Mazaks, just running the ones that they have there, unless there's something that I am missing.
Because the control's so bad?
Yeah. It's designed for like programming at the machine, like their EZ control. And so like to probe your G50, and there's probably ways around this, but to probe your G54, you have to program it, or you have to probe it in maze control. And then you have to go you have to take a photo or write it down or copy all the values and then go into the other side of the machine and manually type them in.
That's weird.
And it's like, and like, you know, like on your Tormach or my Haas, like you can do a single surface probe. It doesn't seem like you can do that.
There's no way.
So like the way, like I said, this is just a third party observation. They could be doing it completely wrong, but this is how they do it in their shop. They basically have to write a program to go probe every different place. And then it goes and probes every single thing. Like, it's not like you could just move it over and say, probe this, move it over, probe this, move it over, probe this. They have, like, he will manually go probe those locations, and then he'll write a program that goes and reprobes all those locations in a program, and then it'll save those values, and then he'll take those values, take a screenshot with his phone, like a photo with his phone, and then go to another page and manually type those in. And it's like, by the time everything's done, you're like, oh my gosh, like, how hard is it to
At that
probe
point,
something?
just use an edge finder.
Like, how hard is it to probe something in?
That's bad. That's bad.
And so it was interesting to kind of just see their different workflows.
There's no way that there's not a better way of doing that. Like, there's some bad controllers out there, especially when you compare them to like the Tormach or the Haas controller, but that's bad.
Yeah. So
yeah,
it was interesting to go and kind of see their different stuff. And like, you know how I will use like in control versus it in computer and like wear offsets? They don't have any of that on that machine.
like it's an option they didn't pay for.
I don't know if it's an option they didn't pay for or if it's just a workflow that they don't have access to or what, but they don't.
Or they don't know how to do it.
Yeah, pretty much. And so like I have to program everything on in computer. That said, they use Schunk hydraulic holders, and all of the tools except for one were extremely accurate. So even doing it on center line and just going off the tool diameter of what it just is, like a 1/2-inch tool or a 1/4-inch tool, like I was coming within 5/10 on everything. And so it was still a lot more accurate than I was expecting. But I think that comes down to the holders more than anything.
I suspect there is a lot of mass behind that machine.
Yeah, that
as
too.
well.
Yeah, it is a very big, heavy machine. Like it rapids at or it maxes out cut speed. It might rapid faster, but its max cut speed is like 350 inches a minute.
Okay.
So
which is like slower than a non-SS VF2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Its rapids is a little bit faster, but I would say its rapids are less than 1,000 inches a minute, just guessing. I'm curious. I can look in and see what they say online, but it is a heavy machine.
Is it still Cat 40?
Yeah, it's still Cat 40.
Okay.
And I think they have a 16K spindle on it, but they never run it over 10K.
Ah, classic.
So, and like I was running it at 10K, and they had people from the shop that were all coming over because I was like, "What's the max speed you guys are comfortable running it at?" And they said 10K. And the whole time he was running at 10K, I kept having other people from the shop going, "What's that noise? What's going on over here?"
It's removing material so quickly.
We had a couple of machinists that were like older, and they're coming by and they're like, "Wow, that thing's really going."
We normally run it at using conventional milling at 12 inches a minute.
So it was pretty fun. But no, the first part ended up turning out really good. It was about 36 inches long, 2 inches wide, and about 2.5 inches tall. And it basically looks like a giant heatsink with fins that are 1.5 inches tall and about 1/8 inch thick.
And wait, did you say 1 inch tall?
1.5 inches.
1.5 inches tall.
Or 1.25 inches, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
1.5 inches, 1.25 inches.
So is that part like 90% slotting then? Just like back and forth with a little end mill? Zip, 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 zip.
Well,
zip,
with the big end mill. The gaps in between them are pretty big. Like it looks like that, but across the part there was only 4 or 5 fins, and there's probably about there's over a 1/2 inch gap between each one.
Okay.
So I was slotting with a 1/2 inch tool, and I was coming back with the 3/8 and finishing it and doing it in 1/4 inch step downs. And I got like 0 chatter, and the finish turned out great.
Nice.
So I was very happy about that. I got to make the mirrored version of that one tomorrow and drop it off tomorrow. But basically, it was a rush part for my customer. It was going in the food industry, and they tried to make it out of sheet metal 2 or 3 times, and they kept getting hosed because none of the welds were sanitary. And so they said, "Screw it, we're going to turn it into a giant
block. Of a block."
And so we're kind of rushing. There was 4 pieces, but I didn't think I could get all 4 done by Monday. And so they ended up sending 2 to someone else, and I took on 2, and I'm running them at a different shop.
Interesting.
So, but I've been doing that while Weston and Ben have been keeping the other 4 machines running, apart from the ST15, which is just a very fancy paper weight at this point. Just because we never have any work for it anymore. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
it's hard to find work for it.
Are you selling that thing?
At some point. I don't know
Why
when.
not? Why not sooner rather than later? Why not before RMTS?
Because we're not sure what we want to replace it with, and we need another mill. And so what we're going to do is we're probably going to switch out the SVM for something with another 5-axis, and then we'll have 2 Haas machines. And it does get used. The problem is it only gets used like 1 week out of a month.
Yeah.
So like it still is useful enough, and it's a paid off machine, and it's the only machine that's paid off, and so like I'm not making payments on it, so it's not painful for it to sit. So
it's all opportunity cost and depreciation, basically.
Yeah, and so it sitting there does not hurt as much as other machines not getting utilized as much.
Yeah, but if it was out of the way, you could put a Speedio there or something.
Yeah, Weston's would like to have an ST28Y size machine, because we have a lot of parts that are up to 4-inch diameter, and we either have to do them on the mills, send them out to another local shop that has a big bore lathe, or we have to do something funky with our stock where if the part allows it, I do an opt 0 on a mill where I cut down the stock down to 2.5 inch where I can grab onto it.
Yeah.
And then I do the rest of the part. So he wants to get an ST28 with live tooling and a sub spindle, no bar feeder. And that would allow us to do up to 4.5 inch through bore parts.
And you wouldn't want to bar feed that because that's a big bar.
That's a big bar. And we typically do runs of, less than 50. So it doesn't need to be bar fed, but it just gives us the opportunity to do a lot of those parts. Also have some milling. So if we can do it on a lathe of that size and do the milling and do the sub transfer, we can do one and done workflows on that machine if we get it. But we don't do enough of it to really stress about it too much yet. But that work is out there.
Why not another Doosan Y-axis?
We are considering that as well. Like the ST28 is just it's the easiest to go price out and make sure it's going to fit in there. We just haven't done that with Doosan.
Because you can look up the price online.
Yeah. So like we can look at that and go, okay, does that make sense, or is this crazy? Like we would be fine getting another Doosan lathe. Like our Doosan lathe has been awesome. I love it. It does good work. And I guess the last big announcement is we have opened up applications for another employee.
Good.
So we've posted to Indeed, and I think we've got 7 or 8 applicants at this point, and more coming in.
Are you looking to hire just a machinist?
So someone to basically, employee Ben has been awesome, and we did his 1-year review and said that, he was doing good, but we really needed him to improve just a little bit more. And he has improved a lot more, and he is crushing it. And so he's to the point now where I don't really feel like we have to babysit him nearly as much as we used to. And so it's now to the point where we could bring someone else on. That someone else can
babysit them.
And so Ben can both partially help to train them up and or we can focus on training them while Ben keeps parts going out in the background. And then if we can get another person trained up to Ben's level, then we'll have 2 guys back there that can keep the majority of the machines going, where Weston or myself no longer has to be back there full time. Unless we keep adding more machines, which was probably going to happen. So, but we're gonna need another person. We're gonna need to get them trained up, and we're excited to be looking out for that next person. So beyond that, we have been digging a massive hole on the side of the building, getting ready for the new addition. Weston, there was a big tree that was next to the building when we bought it that we cut down, and we had to dig that stump out. And so Weston spent a lot of time doing that. And now that tree stump is out of there, he's been just digging out the hole, and they're going to be hauling in red dirt this week. and then we're going to have to get it compacted down, and then it'll just keep working and trying to get the foundation ready for concrete.
Okay.
Or get everything. What's the word I'm looking for? Not framed up, but whatever you have to do to get ready for concrete, formed up.
Yeah. Are you guys pouring the slab yourself then?
We're going to do the forming ourselves. We'll probably hire a crew to come out and do the actual pouring, but we're going to try to get the slab, or we're going to try to get everything ready before pouring on our own, because we've done this kind of stuff before. So I helped do all this work whenever our house burned down when I was a freshman in university, and when we rebuilt it, me and my dad ended up doing all the work to get the foundation, and we only hired people out to come out and actually pour the concrete, but we did all the prep foundation work ourselves.
Yeah. Do you have to get permits and everything for the work you're doing?
We already have them. I believe Weston already has all that. So
yes, it's done.
It's all posted on the side of the building. So try to do as much of it as we can on ourselves to try to save some money and hire in what we are uncomfortable doing.
Yeah, it's definitely the way to do it. And you'll do it for a third of the price, than if you tried to hire all of this out to like a general contractor or something.
Yeah, Weston's all last week. Weston has been, either in the mornings or in the evenings, whenever we can get him some free time, has been working backhoes and skid steers and loading up trailers full of dirt and hauling it out to the farm. So, in preparation for all this.
Nice.
So, but yeah, no, it's looking good, and that's like all the major points from last week that I can think of.
What parts do you have in production mode right now?
I have 1 gun part, 2 medical parts, and then job shop work when I can, and gun parts whenever the job shop work isn't going. So potentially 2 gun parts and 2 medical parts, but one of those parts I'm doing job shop work on the machine and then fitting in some gun parts whenever the job shop work, either it's being programmed or basically if there's a lull in the machine where the machine would be sitting normally, I'm trying to put in gun parts, but the gun parts aren't needed right now. It's just to make sure the spindle keeps turning.
Okay. Which is nice to have that filler work.
Yeah. It's just filler work. So we're not under the gun for those parts. Yeah. And so just being able to fit them in is nice to have.
Sweet.
It takes the pressure off of Ben and says, hey, if you need to focus on programming or doing something else, just run a batch of these. It'll run for 4 hours. And then if you still aren't done, run another batch. It'll run for another 4 hours. And that way the machine's not waiting on you and you're not waiting on the machine.
Is this all a like 0-pointed workflow at this point?
Those are
okay
on that particular machine. Yes.
So they're very easy to just swap in and hit go.
Yeah, I've got 2 Pearson pallets and I've got a Pearson Mini in the machine, and we just swap them in and out.
I didn't realize you were still using the Pearson stuff.
Yeah, just on those parts. So like realistically, that's probably the only job I've realistically ever used the Pearson system on. And it's nice for that, but I would like to eventually get to a Lang system setup or something. And I'm not even against having the Pearson system, but it's just I don't have the Pearson spot is taking up a vice spot, and I'd like to be able to swap out vices and a pallet system. And right now I have to manually probe in either the pallet or the Pearson system. So I have 3 vices instead of my normal 4.
Yeah. Or you could put down a big, huge Lang plate and be able to swap stuff on and off as needed.
Yeah. Yeah. But we priced all that out and it was very, very expensive. And so we just haven't pulled the trigger on that yet.
Kind of understandable.
So, but that is the ultimate goal. I'd like to do that to the VF3. And if we get a VF4 with the trunnion, I'd like to do that to that machine as well at some point. So, but as it is, we are using the Pearson system and it is nice to use. So I'm glad we're getting some more use out of that. Anything else? That's basically last week. What about you? I know you've had some excitement.
I've had a rather large amount of excitement in the worst form. We'll get there though. Before the excitement happened, I've been working on this batch of, I wouldn't call them production parts, but I know they're not production parts because I only need 50 of them. But for my shop, that's a production batch. And fortunately, these were ones that I had run in the past. They're kind of a hybridized salami slice workflow where, well, they are just a salami slice workflow where op 1 gets tabbed off and then they get flipped into soft jaws for op 2 and basically just get a chamfer on the backside. Last time I made these, I think I made like 10 or something, and this time they wanted 50 of them. And so this was a great job for Mongo. This was kind of, the first Mongo food job. The biggest problem I ran into is I really just don't have enough vices at this point for Mongo. Theoretically, my batch of 17 brand new vices is showing up tomorrow, though.
Okay.
But for this one, I just ordered 2 of the vices off of Amazon. They were like 3 times the cost of getting them directly from overseas. But, they were here, so I was able to run this job. And I set it up to run with 2 op 2 vices and 3 op 1 vices. And that gave me about 90-ish minutes of walkaway time. And it worked great. That job ran pretty much exclusively in times where I would not have traditionally been able to work on the parts. So that job exclusively ran either while I was sleeping or while I was teaching, basically. Nice. I would get up in the morning, I would start a pallet before I went to school, I would go teach, I would come back, I would start a new set of pallets, and then I would go to bed. Well, before I went to bed, I would start a new set. So I guess there was a little bit of time in there where I technically could have been at the machine. But basically, I didn't stand at the machine except a little bit on the last day where, because my op 2s and op 1s were mismatched, I had 10 or 15 extra op 2s. And so I was standing there at my vice rack, and I would load an op 2 and then wait for Mongo to unload the vice he just did and grab the new one and swap them out, and basically kept it running that way. It technically would have been faster to just do it all in one vice in the machine, but whatever.
Hey, it's good. What's the word? Testing for Mongo.
Yes. So that run, because I did have 1 or 2 pieces of scrap, that run was over 100 pallet changes.
Nice.
And there were 3 total alarms that it found. 2 of them were just, I think I had a pallet position kind of poorly calibrated on the rack, and both of those alarms were it just not quite getting the pallet back into the right place and then freaking out about it. It just missed a little bit. So on the second one, I just recalibrated that position, and that hasn't been a problem ever since. The other one was kind of one of those classic freak automation things where I was salami slicing these parts off, and they are an Audacity classic of just being a ring.
Mm-hmm.
And they are designed, so there's a 1 or 2 thou onion skin on the inside of the ring. And they don't go flying off into the machine like a lot of my salami slice stuff does. And I just, when I'm ready to separate them from the stock, I have a Allen wrench screwdriver thing that's very rubberized on the back. And I just grab one side of the ring and whack it with the rubberized screwdriver, and it just pops that onion skin free. Well, for some reason, because of the automation gods on this one, that ring decided to pop off. The only one I've had this happen in the 60 of these or whatever I've made of them, that ring decided to pop off, and it somehow got wrapped around Mongo's little fork. And so when he went to go pick up the pallet, he hit the ring before he was able to get far enough into his lift position and lift it off. So don't know how that happened. Obviously, it's the kind of thing that you need to figure out if you're doing a big production run of these, like a U production run, not a me production run. But, one fault like that is kind of whatever. So overall, very happy with that. I did notice that one set of my soft jaws was a little less accurate at the end than when it started. It seemed like one of the sides was a little bit higher than the other side. And I don't know why. So, I mean, obviously, either something moved. It's possible that I machined the jaws in this orientation. And then when I loaded into the rack, it got flipped 180. And because I don't have a grinder, I did not grind all 4 of the little feet on the bottom of the Aroa system flat. It's possible that something was damaged. The jaw seemed fine. I don't know. The parts were in spec, just the chamfer was a little bit uneven on the back that I noticed. And it was odd.
Do you have so those can be rotated into any of the 4 orientations?
They can be, yes.
So you should get like a sticker that says front, back, and
I do need that. I have like a rule of thumb where if it's a long vise, the little hex that you use to tighten it goes on the right. If it's a short vise, it goes out towards the user. But yeah, mistakes happen, and it could have been that. Maybe it did get some like chips underneath it when I was making it. I made sure it was cleaned later.
Yeah, that was my next question is, can chips get underneath it while the robot's bringing in and out vices?
Yeah, it's generally pretty good. I didn't really see any chip buildup at any point during this, 100 pallet run. I have a washdown cycle that runs right before Mongo comes in, and that Aroa base has its own air purge. So as soon as it releases the pallet, it air purges out from underneath the feet. And when you first loosen it, it kind of jets up and hits the feet, and it goes out in all directions. Okay. So at no time did I see a buildup of chips on the Aroa base. That being said, I do think I need to kind of tighten up some of my cleaning more. I really need to get a chip fan in there, and I might even do Mongo picks up the vise and moves it out of the machine, doors close, wash down, doors open, Mongo comes back in. Might be even safer. Unless it just blows chips where it was previously clean because it was protected by the pallet. So there'll be some experimentation there.
Does it have like a gasket on the bottom that keeps chips from getting... Because I know some of those Aroas have like a gasket around it to keep chips out while there's a pallet on it.
That would only work if my pallets were the whole size of my base. But because I'm using those little import vices, they are not. Okay. And so a gasket will do no good. So I don't know. So far, it hasn't been a problem yet, unless somehow it caused this issue, and I just don't know.
So with automation, you have to watch everything. Everything matters, even more so than normal.
Yep. And really the only thing to do is to test more. I have another job coming up here, which is one that I normally do via super glue and tape. And I'm still going to do it via super glue and tape, but it's going to be palletized super glue and tape. So it's 200 pieces of this mirrored acrylic material, single op part. The only problem I've had is in the past, these have been a fairly high mortality rate part where, a lot of them go flying off into the ether and they're too small to find. So I'll probably, put enough material on different pallets to make like 250 or 300, and whatever's lost is lost.
What size end mill do you use on those?
I would have to go back and check. If I remember correctly, it's a 3mm Datron single flute 4 plastics.
Okay. So would going smaller keep them from flying off?
Potentially. So part of the problem is they need to all be like super optically clear, and like I can't, machine off the back face. I can't, machine the top face because it's mirrored. So I can't glue the material down directly. I have to use the tape, and that's why it releases more. If it was a material that I could clean with acetone, which you can't, the acrylic, or I wasn't worried about the face of it, I would just glue it directly to the pallet and wouldn't be an issue. But because it's, these are super small in diameter. These are like, 1 millimeter in diameter or something, and relatively tall. They just have a tendency to go flying, but the material is so cheap that it's fine. Like I'm okay with a 50% yield on these if I use $2 of acrylic instead of $1 of acrylic.
Yeah.
And it'll run without me anyway. So cycle time's like a minute on them or something, a minute each. So it's 200 minutes of runtime. That's, I don't know. I feel like less than I sleep.
Gotcha.
What's 200 divided by 60? Yeah, that's less than I sleep. So I'll start it and then I'll go to bed and it'll be done when I wake up.
Yeah.
Other than that, there was a little bit of shop drama.
Yeah.
Like
You
a
have kind
lot
of
of it.
you kind of have a preview over your shoulder there.
Yeah. So those of you watching on the video, you may notice I am not in my office as normal. I am now in the middle of my shop.
And are you on a different computer?
Same computer.
Well, why is your camera so clear right now?
Because I fixed my internet.
Okay. Because it's like the clearest I've seen your camera ever during one of these.
It's because my internet's fixed. That was part of getting Mongo to work, is I ran into weird niche, like basically bugs. Like I basically hit a bug with that mesh wireless system that I was using, and I was able to get that fixed through extraneous Ethernet cables. But so the other day we had a, we had a storm warning, and there was we knew there was going to be a fairly heavy storm that was going to hit us. It's called a derecho, which is not a term I was familiar with until this. Apparently they are relatively common in this area, but we had like a really long lull without any. We had like 6 years where we didn't have one, but traditionally they have been semi-regular. And a derecho is not a tornado. Tornadoes rotate and derechos don't rotate. And you get really heavy kind of straight line winds. And they also do this weird thing where they create more storms behind them. And if you watch the radar, it's actually really bizarre because they kind of pop up like static. So there's this kind of bow-shaped front of the storm that goes through, and then you get these little like pop-up storms behind it.
Interesting.
And well, that derecho went through, and I don't know, it was a dramatic storm, but that was about it. But for whatever reason, the derecho's like, yeah, I'm going to stay here. And it kind of just chilled out to a little bit to the east of us, and behind, because it was moving west to east. But because it like creates storms behind it and it kind of lost momentum, it just sat there and it dumped rain on us, and rain and rain and rain. I don't remember what the final total was, but it was something like 12 inches in 24 hours.
Wow.
There are hurricanes that don't drop that much rain that quickly. And Indiana is certainly not prepared for that kind of weather. And it's been kind of a major disaster for this area. A lot of the city was flooded, and not just like little flooded, but like stuff you see in hurricanes flooded. Cars up to their roofs kind of flooded. Indiana's very flat. We don't really have anywhere for the water to go. And so when it gets dropped on us that fast, the water just kind of stays around. And our drainage paths are, a grand total of like, it might be 2 or 3 feet different than the total elevation change of like the whole rest of the city. And so when there's enough rain, it fills up those little shallow drainage paths, and then the city floods. And there's just a ton of damage in downtown Muncie. Like, it's officially a federal emergency.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there were, to my understanding, there's like 4 confirmed deaths right now. One was from a group of kids that thought it would be fun to jump into the stormwaters. Like, they were jumping off a bridge into the stormwaters that were kind of in an underpass there, and he got swept away. And another one was a lady. We don't know anything about her story, but they found her maybe 1,000 feet kind of upstream from our house, because that stream goes through the back of our property. So that was obviously close to home. And she's probably from kind of this neighborhood. Probably went out to go look at the creek or something and fell in. So it's been kind of wild.
Yeah.
Lots of people at our church had a lot of water in their house. We got off fairly easy. So our house itself, there were some scary moments. Our front yard and our side yard, in some portions, were 2, 3, 4 feet deep. Our little drainage ditch that runs along the side became, a raging river. Going across, like, they closed our street because there was so much water coming from across the field across from us into our yard. Like, my driveway is now half in my yard, but the house ended up being okay. It was far enough up away from everything else that was fine. The shop got very flooded, though. Very much water in the shop. It had probably 3 or 4 inches throughout the whole thing, which again, compared to a lot of people, could be a lot worse. There's a lot of houses that are up to their roofs down closer to the river that are, just absolutely, flooded. But we didn't quite get it that bad here. So yeah, the shop 3 or 4 inches throughout the whole thing. There was surprisingly little damage, though. So I am very fortunate that I have spent the last year or so on a lane kick. And part of my push is to get everything up off the floor. And so I think the only damage to any object was a USB hub that was kind of dangling off, actually Mongo. It was dangling off his computer into the water. So I threw that away. But, I didn't have any work holding on the ground. There might be some, aluminum or something that got its feet wet, but that's not going to hurt it. I suppose my material cabinet is steel and on the ground, so that might get rusty or something underneath. I should check the bottom drawers of that. Those might be full of water.
That'd be a good idea.
I haven't opened that since then. I should probably open that up and aim a fan in it. But other than some buckets, like a dolly, my pallet jack, like a few things that don't really ever normally live on feet, everything was off the ground.
Nice.
There are those bins, you can see them back there behind me. Those were on the ground, but those are waterproof bins. Those are IP67 rated. So those were fine as well. The walls around my shop are, I don't know, probably a little worse for wear. They're drywall. They seem to be holding up fairly well. The OSB back there is a little bit swollen, but not terrible.
We'll have matching shops with swole OSB lines of where the water levels are at.
Yeah, you flooded your shop once, right? That was something that you guys caused, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was something I caused by leaving water running.
Yeah, but the office is a different story. So the office had, which is the dark room behind me there, the office had a kind of pseudo deck floor is the best I can call it. Basically, it's underneath, it's the same concrete that I am on in here. But probably for warmth or comfort reasons, sometime long before me, someone put down some 2x4s on their side and then used like those big concrete nails to hold those down. And then on top of it, they had 2x6s going across the other way to a somewhat tight fitting floor. Like it wasn't a deck with intentional gaps, but it was a deck with accidental gaps. And I was really hoping that I wasn't going to have to pull that up. But I pulled up a board for the first time the other day and realized that, before this was a shop, at one point, this was a wood shop. Well, before it was my shop, at one point, it was a wood shop. And then before that, this was a stable. And underneath those boards is a solid, like, in some places, 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch of sawdust and mud and dirt. So either from like bedding that they use from the horses or from the woodworker that was in here. It is very full of crap at the moment. And guess what? That crap soaked up a bunch of water and there's no way that I'm going to get it dry. Even if I could get it dry, someone in the Discord recommended just sticking a big old dehumidifier in there. But my allergies are so bad that I am not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Other than to get it out?
Other than to get it out, yeah. So I moved my office out here. I built temporary office in the shop so that I could keep running, keep recording. And I'm going to, in the very near future, be pulling up that floor. That whole wall is very ugly wood paneling. I'm sure you guys have seen that in these podcasts. And that wood paneling just soaked up a bunch of stuff. So it's all destroyed and that needs to go, which means I'm basically going back to studs in that room there, which I'm not looking forward to it. But I mean, at this point, like I'm functional. I can still make parts. It's fine. There was nothing major damage. Like I have some work that I need to do, but honestly, that room needed the work anyway. It just suddenly got expedited. So I don't know. I'll pick away at it over time.
It reminds me of an old saying. If you don't schedule maintenance for your machines, machines will schedule it for you.
If you don't schedule flood damage, it'll flood damage itself. I am considering pulling out that office altogether.
What would you do instead?
Have more shop.
Just make it all a giant shop?
Yeah. Or I would make a smaller office. So I kind of have like, I don't know, I think it's 8 feet wide here. That's like powder coat booth. And then beside it is the grinding room. I might extend that down to the end and have a small office there, and then open up everything here on this side, which would be, let's see, if this is 30 feet wide, what's 30 minus 8? That's math. It should be easy. But it'll be 22 feet. So I'll have 22 feet more width to go down to the end there. I might also use this opportunity to put a bathroom in my shop finally.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah. So that'll probably be more expensive than anything else, because it'll either need a little itty bitty baby septic tank or somehow some sort of long run connection to our septic tank.
Yeah, and will you need to remove some concrete for piping as well?
Probably.
For plumbing?
But a bathroom would be nice in here.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now I have to go walk to the house, which is fine. It's not that far. But every time I walk into the house, there's going to be some distraction. And so I probably lose a disproportionate amount of my day because of the bathroom. Take that as you will. But there's already water in here. I don't have septic.
Yeah, I see it.
Yes, okay. There was lots of water. So could be worse, but I mean, I don't know. There's work.
Well, that's also an advertisement for lean in general. The fact that you didn't have anything on the floor.
But there's a good story. I don't remember if I heard this in like a Ryan Tierney video or if it was from like the Lean Built podcast. But in one of them, they were telling a story about a business that had a fire. They had like a big laser cutter, and that laser cutter caught fire. But it was like a bad fire. This was not a little fire. This was a bad fire. But because everything was pretty well leaned out, like there was, very clean entry points, the firefighters weren't tripping over stuff to get there. Like it, really went a long way to probably save that business or save that building and probably save lives.
Yeah.
So the fact that I had, started doing all this lean stuff, it did make a difference. And that's not to say my shop is perfect. There's still a mess. If we look this way, you will see a set of shelves. And that set of shelves, I moved from where it was to where it is because it is hiding just a whole pile of crap that's behind it.
It's an organized, pretty face on a mess behind it.
Some of that stuff is like not shop related stuff, like my wife's wood stove that's going to go in our greenhouse when I ever get that finished, which that greenhouse right now is a big mud puddle. So that'll be fun to work on. But also the laser is going to go soon. It's been taking up a ton of space in my shop for far too long, which considering it gets used maybe twice a year is not.
Is that your CO2 laser?
Yeah. So Mr. CO2 laser needs to go, and he'll probably get replaced with a fiber laser for part marking.
How have you liked it for cutting cardboard and things?
Cuts cardboard great. I just don't cut cardboard much anymore. Yeah, I mean, that's what that laser is set up for. That is a cardboard cutting monster. It can cut cardboard at like 200 inches a minute or something like that. Like it flies. And in fact, it cuts it fast enough that you have to slow it down because you get artifacts where it hits corners, because I have a long focal length lens in there. I think it adds a significant amount of mass.
Gotcha.
But I just don't do that much anymore. Like you could, but if I need something custom, I 3D print it instead now, like custom packaging. I just 3D print that. So I don't know, part marking would be more useful to me.
Yeah.
I also think I'm going to clear out the powder coat booth and make the powder coat booth not a powder coat booth, and instead make it a anodizing room. So I powder coat stuff I probably do that one 4 times a year, with 2 of them being like, powder coating a Yeti for a friend, and 2 of them being production parts. So, but it has basically everything I need for anodizing in there. There's lots of outlets and stuff on the wall. It has really good lighting, and then it has a big ventilation fan. So and it's semi-isolated from the shop. So I think that makes sense to make it a good, small, but decent place to anodize parts, which that is something that I would do more if I had the ability.
Yep.
Speaking of something that we would want more of if we had the ability, we have Patreons. So our Patreons include, but are not limited to...
Well, hang on. We got some new ones.
Yeah, I realized I was doing things out of order, but I got so excited about my transition. So we have new Patreons. New Patreons are Jesse at Data Proto, and Josh H. So thank you guys. We appreciate you. You guys are the reason we are able to do IMTS this year. And you guys have already paid for our hotels. And they've paid for my hotel and Jacob's hotel and flights and stuff. I think we still owe Harrison money, but you guys have paid for me at least. So thank you. Keep Patreoning so Harrison can also come.
Yay.
Don't forget Tormach booth Tuesday at 2 p.m. That is our IMTS meetup. Definitely be there. It'll be a lot of fun. Bring a part. It's a good icebreaker, if nothing else. Jamie has his meetup at the G28IO booth on Monday at 2 p.m. And that's going to be a great opportunity if you want to meet friends that you can then have like show friends that you can walk around the show with, which is basically what I did with Jamie last time. It was like we met at some point on Monday, and then we hung out with him and like EJ and a couple other people kind of throughout the week. But like me, him, and EJ hung out all show last time. And then on Wednesday, there is the Within Tolerance meetup. I thought it was at 2 p.m., but I heard someone else say 3 p.m. So it's either at 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. at the Tormach booth. And Jacob can correct us if one of those times or both of those times is incorrect. If you show up at 2, then you'll be there if it's at 3. If you show up at 3, you might miss the first hour. But it'll probably last a while as well. So our Patreons at $15 a month or more include JC at Data Proto, Zachary at Home and Precision Industries, CJ at CS Machine and Fabrication, Brian at Headco, Matt at Modern Fuel, Russell M, Joseph E, Brian B, Jacob S, Chris at CDS Plastics, John at Schubert Design and Manufacturing, Alex H, Avery M, Chris B at Putty Creek Precision, Josh at Lane Machining, Millen Y, Devin C, Christian O, Stephen M, Daniel R, James and Moultrie Made, Ryan at Strata Manufacturing, Kyle at Kursk Machine, Devin at Sinister Machine Works, Greg at Frogtown Manufacturing, James N, Ben at Prickly Pear Prototypes. If you see MFG, do you read that as manufacturing? Or would you read it as MFG?
It's a good question. I'd probably read it as manufacturing.
I also read it as manufacturing, though I kind of hate it. No offense, Greg. But it's like the companies that use that as like part of their official company name instead of just an abbreviation. Sorry, Greg. I'm going to assume you use it as an abbreviation. Greg at Frogtown Manufacturing, James N, Bennett Prickly Pear Prototypes, Cam S, Shep at Alderson Prototyping, Jacob at Zona Precision, Jason at JLS Machine, Joshua H, Christian Z, Leland at Bray Precision, Freaky Climber, Prescott at 1Z 2Z Systems, Trey V, Alexander B, Scott at Design the Everything, Jamie at Nautical Work Holding, who I have tried to give his domains back and he hasn't taken them yet. EJ at Nocturnal Welding, Chris at Zyke Precision, Chris at Thought Bomb Design, and as ever, Jake Brownson.
I think we started the trend of the URL wars because
they have Taps and Patience?
No, because I just saw on Instagram that
Justin's?
Justin.
Justin has like Sonder Lathes Works or something like that.
Yeah, like people are just taking domain names of other people now.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you would like to buy a really cool barnacle or a 0-point system, you can check out tapsandpatience.com.
Yep. Ironically, the easiest way to get there.
Yeah, in the last podcast, Jamie said that people have been going to tapsandpatience.com just because they can find it easier.
I would love to see his statistics of like how people find his website and find out that like Taps and Patience is like 60%.
And we will take 60% of your profits then, Jamie. That gives me a great idea.
Do we get affiliate links?
No, I was just thinking how we make money. You ready for it? You ready?
Yeah.
Profit.
Yeah. That's where Jacob goes and puts like fake money falling. That's great.
All right. So question. EJ, Nocturnal Welding, when you're developing your own product, what's the best way to price it for a distributor? Do you start with the target retail price and work backward, or do you calculate your manufacturing costs first and price it from there? And once you have your first prototype, how do you systematically reduce manufacturing costs while maintaining quality so there's enough margin for everyone?
I think you need to look at it from both directions.
I think we need to skip this question and get back to it later.
Okay.
For inside joke purposes only.
Okay.
Jamie and Norman, what are you guys going to be looking at this year at IMTS?
Everything.
Everything?
Everything. I need production stuff. I would like Swiss machine stuff and B-axis lathe stuff.
I will mostly be looking to learn stuff. I don't really need anything at the moment. I have a ton of space in my shop. I could add another machine if I wanted to, but I don't need to right now. That being said, I probably will still be looking at small 5-axes because at some point I'm going to pull the trigger on one of those. It's just not today. Maybe in a year, and there's not going to be an IMTS before then. I'm definitely going to be looking at robot stuff. I'm going to be looking at Mongo accessories. And again, trying to learn, see what people are doing that is cool that I can do as well. I always like to look for weird stuff that other people aren't doing or are not thinking about or, whatever else. But that's pretty much it. I won't be looking at lathes. Actually, I will look at Swiss lathes. I take that back. Cam S, any experience with carbide drills and drilling without coolant? Under 3 times diameter.
Insert carbide drills.
Did I not say that?
You didn't say the insert part. So
insert carbide drills.
I have used some insert carbide drills. There's a couple different flavors out there. There's the kind where you can replace the whole tip. There's I think they're called U drills, where you have the actual inserts that you can rotate and put in. And then there's the spade style, where it's just a flat piece of carbide, kind of. I've used all 3 of those, and I think there's a couple others out there. They all have pros and cons, depending on what you're trying to do, although all of them I've done with coolant. So I wouldn't be able to tell you without coolant. But if you're under 3 times D, I would say there's a lot of options. If you're not going deep, there's a lot of options out there.
Yeah, you can get away with a lot if you're not drilling very deep. My question would be, why? Is it like one of those processes where, for cleaning purposes, you're not allowed to use coolant? Like then, sure, whatever, that's fine. That just is what it is. Is it because you're like trying to do a really big hole on something like a Tormach? Like do you have a 440 in your garage and you're, need to make big holes? In that case, I would say don't use a drill. If it's only 3 times D, like use an end mill and bore it out.
Yeah, and if you're using an insert carbide drill of any kind, I would say 1/2 inch is about the smallest where that makes sense. If you go less than that, solid carbide drills are, unless you're going through a ton of carbide, 1/2 inch is about the smallest that we go personally, because like the economics of going below that just doesn't make much sense.
I just bore everything with an end mill.
So we go up to 1 inch drilling, and those we do as insert. We use the Kennametal Go drills, replaceable Ken tips.
We know,
and they do well.
Yeah,
but I've also used the spade ones from Haas, like the ones that are like the flat spades, and I've actually done some pretty deep holes with those in the past, and they do all right. And I've also used the U style drills where you have the 2 inserts.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add there. Just why? Tell us why, and then we can get deeper. Kyle F., what are your thoughts on the new wave of desktop 5-axis CNCs that come with features closer to an industrial machine, like coolant and tool changers? Could they be a good way to learn while being relatively low risk?
I have 2 thoughts on those. One, they do look really cool, and I want to play with one because I think it'd be fun just to experience what they are. But it seems like a lot of them are geared towards people that don't know how to use CNCs and are kind of, you upload a model and it comes up with its own tool paths for you. And so if that's what they're doing with them, if they're trying to Bambu Labs-ify, then I don't think you're going to learn very much from using them.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, obviously, I was a big fan of my Pocket NC, and I realized that I have kind of become a little jaded because when I had my Pocket NC, all of the real machinists would talk about how it wasn't a real machine and yada yada yada. And my first instinct is oh, that's just a little toy. It's not a real machine. It can't possibly do anything decent. But I realize I'm that's probably not true. So I don't know. Somebody in the community needs to get one, and I think we need to have them play with it for us.
I am curious how Pocket NC is going to handle it as a company.
I hope they do something. Like, can someone poke Pocket NC with a stick and make sure they're still alive over there?
Because I feel like this is the machine that everyone was kind of expecting them to make, like, style machine as their upgrade, that they ended up going, with their Solo One.
Yeah, the Solo that never.
Yeah. Like this is kind of what I was expecting, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they handle it.
Yeah, they missed the mark with the Solo, then I think got kind of gun shy, and then someone else came in, and
they're going to be flooding the market with machines that are, I think those are cheaper than the Pocket NCs.
Yeah. Well, one of the things about the Pocket NCs is they were super well built. They were really solid little things that had really high quality components. So they punched outside of their weight class. Whereas these probably punch appropriately to their weight class.
Yeah, but they also have much bigger work areas in the Pockets as well, from what I've seen.
I have not looked into them whatsoever. One of the YouTubers I watch, who's traditionally a woodworker, did a video on one, and I skipped it because I knew it was going to be an ad. I might go back and watch that. But again, he's a woodworker. He's not going to know anything about anything.
Yeah.
He's just going to be like, oh, wow, I put in a model and an AI'd it, which probably just means one really long rotary toolpath, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
I bet it does some sort of roughing, and then it just does a really long rotary toolpath all the way around.
That's basically what it's doing, yes, from what I've seen. And so as a learning tool, it depends on how much of it you're allowed to like go fusion, and
you've got to be able to put G-code on it.
Yeah. So I'll be curious to see how those work in the long run. But like the videos that I've seen, at least the one I just saw recently, the tool changer was exposed. And so like all I could see was like chips on like the tool changing mechanism. And I was like, oh, that is such a horrible design. Like chips are gonna get up into the tool changer.
Was it a like straight tool, like direct clamping kind of tool changer? Like the Carvera? Yeah.
Yeah, but like the tools were exposed, and like it was like on the side of the table that turned, and it was exposed. So like I did not like the looks of that one. I've seen some that they have trays that extend out where they're more protected.
Like the Solo,
and I like those better. I think I've seen 4 different designs so far of like advertisements and just like videos that pop up on my Instagram and YouTube advertising these things. And I keep clicking on them to just kind of see what they are. I think it was like the X horse.
Yeah, that's the one I've seen.
They kind of like got it all started, but since then, like I've seen videos for the X horse for like a year and a half or 2 at this point. But now that one's getting ready to release, there's like a flood of copycats that are all hitting the market about the same time. And so the X horse seems to be the best built one, because at least from what I've seen from like an R&D, like I've seen it the most, so I have the most trust in it. All these other ones that are coming out of nowhere, I don't have the history of seeing how they're actually designed and built quite the same.
Yeah. So long story short, to answer the question is, we just don't know enough yet. They might be great. Who knows?
If they are cool enough and there's enough feedback and I can have enough money to swing it, I would love to get one just to play around with at the house.
Maybe I can play the influencer card.
Yeah. I don't have an influence, so I won't get one.
You have a fairly large podcast, sir.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't really do like YouTube videos like you do.
Yeah, which is what these places want to sponsor. But
yeah, they're not gonna send one over so I can talk about it on my podcast.
Yeah. I got approached by Temu for the YouTube channel.
But yeah.
Yeah, we're not doing that. It's kind of antithetical to subtract, but I found that very amusing. From Zachary Homan at Holman Precision Industries, do you think it's smarter to focus on developing products or product lines to run in a small startup shop or to optimize for job shop work in the long run? This is a good lead into EJ's question, which I think we'll get to next week.
You have more insight on the EJ than I do, apparently.
I'm just making fun of him because we've missed this question like 4 weeks in a row.
Are you just blue ballsing him now?
Yes. Yes, I am.
AJ. EJ, I'm sorry. This is all AJ. So I think product stuff, as both of us can attest, is hard to get going. You can catch lightning in a bottle, but it's harder than getting job shop stuff going. And so if you don't have a product that you believe in and are willing to put in the time, effort, and work, and it's going to take a longer time to get it up and going. If you can accept all of that, then products can be great. But it's job shop work is a lot easier to get profitable a lot quicker. And it can, if done well, provide the cash to fund a product.
I am going to disagree with you. Rare
really?
moment of disagreement. Or maybe add some nuance.
Okay.
Getting a product to the point where it is like sustaining you and your company like completely together, that is much more difficult. However, getting some product shipped out the door where you're making, $100, $200, $500 a month, that is much easier than job shop. So the scale here matters. Getting a small side hustle product set up, not that difficult. Start an Instagram, start a YouTube channel, make a small number of knives or whatever people are making these days. That's not that bad. Getting a full business based around the product, that is very difficult. So I think it's a great way to start. And then you can kind of use the funds from that to build up Job Shop if that's what you want to do. If you want to stay as product, great. More power to you. But yeah, so the easier barrier to entry there, I think. And then it ramps up in difficulty a lot. And then I think at some point it probably evens out.
Yeah.
With Job Shop or whatever.
I can see that perspective. I'm thinking of it in terms of like, if I was going to do a product and live on my own as like my sole income.
Yes, that is much more difficult.
I think that's harder. But if it's a side hustle and it's something that you're building out over time, then it is easier than the job shop work because your deadlines aren't the same as they are in job shop work. Like if you're like I've seen videos in the past of like Tormach users where they get like a Pearson pallet and they're doing the knives and they just have it running in the background while they're at work. And so they're doing a side hustle knife business where they're not really spending a whole lot of time at the actual machine now that they got it all palletized.
Yeah. Which is why Harrison and I both have this like gravitational attraction to products, is because there is some certainly nice economies of scale that come with them and some nice kind of lifestyle benefits.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also harder parts as well. Like you have to get really good at marketing. Job Shop can be entirely word of mouth, and there's many, many good shops that run that way. Products, if you want to do it at scale, maybe, but it becomes a lot more difficult.
Yeah. Hats off to anyone who has done the product space and done well in it, because from the little bit of experience that I have with it, it is a challenging space, at least for my particular skill set to do well.
Yeah. And again, kind of the key takeaway or at least my key takeaway from like the design the everything failure was I am not going to do another product again that does not help people make money or otherwise noticeably, dramatically improve the quality of their life. So that was my key lesson. Anything I do, it's going to help people make money because that becomes a really, really easy sale to people. Whereas, hey, get a slightly nicer carabiner is a very hard sale. Trust me.
Which I still have your carabiner on my keychain.
It was a good carabiner.
It is
especially the not so tactical ones. Those, we really had it nailed. Other than maybe not using Loctite on the screws.
Yeah. I don't know if I have the original one. I have the one that had the side pieces. So,
All right, EJ's question. So when you're developing your own product, how do you price it? There's a rule of thumb right here. If you're going through a distributor, then you need to have at least 25, or you need to have about 25% margins. So if you're going to direct to customer, you need to have about 50% margins. If you're going through a distributor, the distributor also gets 50%. So you then need to have 25%. So if you're selling the product for $100, you get 25.
that'd be 75% margin. Well,
No.
yeah. Depends on how you look at it. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Now that's just a rule of thumb. Like there's all kinds of different products that break rules and stuff and things. Like there's some products that are super high margin. There's some products that are super low margin, but that's like the general retail rule of thumb.
The best way that I've thought about it in terms of I don't know if it was something I heard from someone, but if you can hire someone to make the parts and then you can give them to a distributor to sell the parts and you can still make money, it's a good product.
Yeah. So next question, do you start with target retail price and work backwards, or do you calculate your manufacturing costs and price from there? Both.
Yeah, both. You need to hit it from both sides. So it's easy to look at a product and go, okay, I have this knife. What is the market value of this knife? And you come up with the price. And then you go back and you look at it from the other side. You go, okay, how much can I make this part for? Or how much can I make this knife for? And if there's a mismatch between those two in the wrong way, it's a bad item.
Yep. Couldn't have said it better myself.
So,
yeah. And you either need to then fix your marketing so you can sell it for more, or change your manufacturing process so you can make it for cheaper. Once you have your first prototype, how do you systematically reduce manufacturing costs while maintaining quality so there's enough margin for everybody?
So that is something that comes over time. And you need to be profitable without worrying about reducing manufacturing costs in the beginning. Because you will find improvements over time, but you cannot count on if you sell a product that's unprofitable in the beginning with the hopes of finding improvements over time, you run the risk of running out of money before you can become profitable. And some good examples of that from me, while not in the product space, I have had some of my medical parts where I thought I could machine them a lot faster than I actually could. And so I way underbid them to the point where I was afraid that we were losing money. But since we've been making them, I have found enough improvements to get back into profitability to where I am now actually in the black on those parts. But for a while, we were really scared, and we were talking to the customer and being like, hey, we might have to raise the prices on these because we might have underbid them. But I think we found enough improvements to get back into the black on those. But that was a learning experience for us. And that just had to deal with running harder materials for us specifically. And we going through a lot of tooling.
So your advice is don't?
Yeah, if you can't be profitable in the beginning, don't count on it unless there's a known path to reducing the price. Like you have to have a plan and a strategy, because you will naturally get more efficient over time. You will naturally find ways to make it better, but do not plan on that.
Yeah. My recommendation would be, one, start with quality. Not necessarily in terms of the quality of your product, like how happy the customer is, though you should also pay attention to that. But start by reducing defects. So defects are a lot of the times the most expensive part, like are the most expensive waste of a manufacturing process. And if you can make sure that the product comes out good every single time, that will be your big first step. With Design the Everything, we had a big issue with that with our carabiners. And if I had been a better machinist at the time and been able to cut down our manufacturing waste, we would have made a lot more money than we did. So start with just quality. Make sure you're making it right every time first. Don't worry about speed yet. Just get it really, really dialed in. And once your project is really, really dialed in, then you can start, trying to pinch out some pennies. and then for this, we have a really good template that's already been made. You may know it as Tim Woods or the 8 wastes. What are they? Defects, overproduction. I didn't pull up a cheat sheet. Waiting, underutilized talent, transportation, inventory, wasted motion, and overprocessing. Like, start knocking those out one by one every day. Do small lean improvements. Work on the layout of your production cell. If you don't have a production cell, build a production cell. Start documenting your processes. Once you have those processes, you're able to improve them. Try out different fixtures, try out different tooling. Figure out systems that let you minimize inventory so you don't have cash tied up on a shelf. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All the lean stuff. Just go to the Lean Built, or go listen to the Lean Built podcast and the Art of Cards podcast. What's that called? Incremental. Go listen to the Incremental podcast. Like, this is what lean is. It's how you eke out little bits of more from your product lines. Like, that lean is 100% still totally applicable to job shops, but it's a lot easier to apply if you have a product. So
yeah,
go do that.
And the beautiful thing is, if you're making money unoptimized, and then you start to optimize, you can do a couple things. One, you can either increase your profit margins. 2, you can run sales or lower your price altogether and just sell more now that you're more efficient at making them and actually make more money in the long run. Like, there's a lot of options that, like, you can do as you improve your internal processes to increase sales, provided that your sales make sense in the beginning.
Yeah. And another thing is, we are machinists and we talk about machining, but machining is actually kind of a terrible way to make a product in bulk. And if you're talking about going through distributors, that implies some amount of bulk. So get as little machining in it as you can. If it can come from laser cut parts, or if you can come up with some sort of custom stamping rig, or even if you could, have a jig and throw it on a drill press, that's a much cheaper machine that you could potentially, do faster than putting it on a mill. And machining should probably be your last thing you look at for a product. Sorry, it took us like 4 months to answer that, EJ.
I want to know what he's working on.
I want to know what he's working on too. Yeah. I didn't know he had a product line in mind.
We'll probably never know because you blue-balled him so long.
He just gave up on it.
He just gave up on it. EJ, I'm sorry. We love you.
Well, anything else?
Not really. I think we've beaten. Oh, you
I just remembered something. Quoting 2.0 is basically done.
So is there something on your website that says that?
No, we're still waiting on some major website revisions. However,
I was going to say, your website looks exactly the same.
Yeah, we're still waiting on the website guy to come back. I haven't actually tested this web interface for it. Don't say this URL online. So the UI may not work yet. The math underneath it should work. But
okay,
I've built a very rough little quoting page that will just be for testing it. And like I said, I don't even know if this works yet. Should we do it live? Does it connect the toolpath yet?
I don't know. Do you develop these websites yourself? Or is
Yes.
this all vibe coded?
Well, me and my buddy Chat and Chipita.
Because you guys, you create such, this is such a legit looking website.
Yes.
It looks good.
Oh, there we go. But in theory, if this works, like I said, I got it to the point where it was a website. I haven't gone any farther. I spent a long time on the math behind it.
So is this what the customers would see then?
No, currently this would just be an internal toolpath.
Okay.
This is just testing the math. This is an easy way for AJ to test the math because there are some numbers that I know we need to tweak. But in theory, if this works, it will be the foundation of what will be customer facing eventually.
Gotcha.
But it takes a model. It runs the model through toolpath. It counts the number of setups and the number of tools and the estimated cycle time and figures out the stock size. And then it runs it through a whole bunch of other things. Like we have to put in the number of tolerances that are, how many are plus or minus 5? How many are plus or minus 1? etc. How many holes are there? How many threads? And we have kind of like a questionnaire at the end, which I need to fix in this UI because it doesn't really ask the question. But it'll be like, hey, are you going to need any really stupid long end mills? Is there a bunch of surfacing on it? Is there a bunch of positional tolerances? There's like 10 or 12 questions that are all that kind of thing. Hey, the toolpath integration did work. It pulled off the stock size and the cycle time and the number of setups. It did not get the number of tools, but I think that's actually because I haven't taught it how yet. Because toolpath doesn't surface the number of tools that are being used in the API yet, as far as I understand. Justin. So you can fake it by looking at the total tool change time and then dividing by how long you told it that a tool change takes.
Gotcha.
But it doesn't just give you like a list of tools from the API yet. They have that data, Justin, but you just can't get it from the API unless it's undocumented or ChatGPT is just gaslighting me, which
both could be
all
true.
of those are equally possible.
Yeah. It's Schrodinger's API.
Yeah. I never told it which preset to use for quoting. I wonder what these numbers are based on. Anyway, quoting 2.0, the math is done. I just need to do a bunch of testing. Basically, I'm going to run it against a bunch of our historical quotes and see how it lands. The math is much more complex than it looks on this little UI that I showed you. I did a lot of things so that it scales better with volume. That was our big issue that we had before, is like, I don't know, just if you had twice as many parts, there's a lot, like my old math would just treat a lot of things as being twice as expensive, like inspection. If there was twice as many parts, then the amount of inspection got doubled. But in reality, it doesn't actually work that way. And so basically all of my math is based on logarithms. That's the secret to quoting 2.0, logarithms. And theoretically, it gives better numbers, especially at higher or lower volumes. So
I'll be curious once ProShop gets their stuff figured out.
Yeah.
Because they're supposed to be bringing basically these same capabilities to them.
And this should be a fairly easy step towards auto quoting. Like this is going to be a big step towards auto quoting, and we'll remove a lot of the subjectivity from the subtract quotes and the time. It'll just make them faster. So
sounds good. Well, I'm done. Okay, there's the message. We actually have a song. Unless Jacob cuts it.
You just leave it quiet.
But anyways, guys, thanks for hanging out with us for this week. Please like, subscribe to our YouTube channel. I believe we still need a lot of subscribers there to get monetized. And please tell someone this week about us. For all of you that have been listening to us and continue to listen to us, we appreciate it. And we look forward to meeting you at IMTS if you're able to make it. We'll see you guys later.
One of a kind.